NVIDIA's earnings report has the entire market bracing for a move, but which direction could it go? MarketBeat analyst Thomas Hughes is here to break down NVIDIA's earnings and where he thinks the stock and the market could head. Thomas, this is an event almost like the Super Bowl for investors. Everyone is watching today.
Well, right. If you think of as the market as being pretty cyclical and it's tied to the earnings cycle, which comes out every 3 months, NVIDIA is the most watched stock by far these days. This report is the most important. And I would say that this report is a good one.
Yeah, let's dive right into the details. What makes you call this a good report for NVIDIA?
We've got top and bottom line strength. It outperformed on top and bottom line. It grew by 78% year over year, 12% sequentially. Margins widened. Record data center revenue, the data center segment, which is the heart of the AI movement, grew by 93%. So that's almost another 100% gain over last year. So that's driving the growth. But there was growth seen in other segments. Gaming is still weak, but the pro visualization segment grew a little bit, and the automotive segment, which is also pretty critical for other industries, grew by 27%. And on top of that, they also raised the guidance. So they've extended their trend of beating and raising. So that should keep the analysts happy. That should sustain their uptrend cycle, and that should sustain the uptrend in the stock price.
It's a good report for sure, but is it good enough? That is the question. Will investors be satisfied by the results we're getting, or are they going to be looking at maybe this is growth, but a slow in growth for NVIDIA?
Well, it is slowing growth, but you got to remember that it's slowing at still a hyper pace. It's still growing more than 50% annually each quarter. That's not really expected to stop until maybe a year or so from now. And even then, when it's growing at a 10% pace, that's 10% on top of a triple digit gain that it's made over the last few years. This company has doubled in size more than twice in the last couple of years. It's going to continue growing. And one of the things that I'm really looking at is the amount of cash flow that it's generating, which is really critical to its investability and its investment quality. The report might cause some volatility, but the long-term trends are still positive. I think the stock price will recover soon and set new highs.
Let's get to the volatility a little bit. Like we said earlier, all eyes are on this stock right now, and that brings a lot of traders to the table too. What kind of short-term impact we expect to see after this report?
There could be some more sideways movement. Right now, I'm looking at the post-market action following the release, and the market's kind of been fluctuating between up a percent, down a percent. So the market's really trying to figure out what to do with this. I think ultimately the trend remains up, but it could take a few days or a week for the market to get its footing back under it and for the uptrend to carry the market higher.
Yeah, we've seen in past earnings reports swings of 4% to even 12% up or down after an NVIDIA earnings report. So expect the volatility. We know it's coming, but
Right.
long term, why do you think NVIDIA is on solid ground? There's been some discussion about whether the growth could potentially slow down significantly for this company as there's kind of this shift in the AI world.
Well, right. The growth is to slow significantly. I think it's starting in 2026. The growth outlook slows down to about 10% annually, which is not really robust compared to how it's been, but it's far more sustainable. And this is on top of all the growth that we've seen. So the company has ballooned in size. It's going to stabilize soon, but it's going to continue growing. The advancement of technology is going to sustain an upgrade cycle, which should sustain the business pretty well over the long term. And as I mentioned before, it is making oodles of cash. And the cash is what investors really need to pay attention to right now because soon the company is going to start doing something with it. And I believe aggressive capital returns will probably be included in that.
Yeah, cash is king in this story for sure. Let's talk about the stock price a little bit, Thomas. It really, for the last few months, has kind of been staying around that 135. Should investors expect the growth in the stock price to also slow down as the growth in the company sees a little bit of a slowdown too?
I mean, it could, but I think that that means we'll just see a more sustainable uptrend and less of the sharp upswings and quick pullbacks that we have seen over the last, year, 2 years.
Let's get to the analyst ratings and analyst targets for this. They are still predicting quite a bit of upside for the rest of the year, but we haven't seen that upside quite yet.
Right. So I don't see anything in this report that's going to change the analyst trends. The analyst trends are very positive. It includes increasing coverage, a firm sentiment at moderate buy. We have a bullish bias with most of the ratings actually at buy or higher. The price target has been trending higher. That's probably not going to stop. Right now, the consensus is up more than 100% since last year and leading to the high end range. So that's in the 200 to 225 region, which is a good 35 to 40% upside from these price points right now in the post release action. So like I said, there's going to be some volatility. We could see the stock pull back some more sideways action, but the long-term trends are very solid, very bullish, and this stock is most likely going to be setting new highs this year, probably before mid-year.
Another part of this specific earnings report people are following closely is that Blackwell rollout. How does it seem to be going so far?
It seems to be going very well. The company says that Blackwell has been ramped to full production. They're obviously generating good amounts of revenue from it. That should remain strong. And we should be seeing the Rubin start rolling out in the next couple of quarters. And that, like I said before, will sustain that upgrade cycle. Demand for Rubin's already pretty high. So I expect to see NVIDIA continue to produce these strong results for the next few quarters.
Anything mentioned in this earnings report that kind of addresses the deep seek fears that some investors have that are kind of fueling that thought that there's a big shift coming from chip makers to another form of that second wave of AI?
No, there's nothing mentioned in the earnings report, and they might talk about it in the conference call, but I wouldn't expect it. The DeepSeek news is more about the application of AI and the training of models than it is about the technology that drives it. You have to assume that if China was able to make these advances using inferior GPUs, if we were to apply that technique to NVIDIA's GPUs, what kind of advancements would we be able to make? So ultimately, AI's advance is about the power of the technology. NVIDIA's technology is still the most powerful, advancing the quickest. It will remain the leader for a long time.
Yeah, those new developments have many people still looking to AI and the next big AI investment. Check out our list of 10 of the best AI investments to make in 2025. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description of this video to get that free report on MarketBeat.com and continue building your AI investment portfolio. Well, Thomas, I want to wrap up this video by talking about how investors can best play NVIDIA earnings. What's a good entry point, whether you're a short-term investor or a long-term on NVIDIA? How can you really best play the volatility that comes with earnings?
Like I said, the long-term outlook is pretty positive, so I would use this release as a buying opportunity. The stock pulls back, wait for it to show some signs of support, use that as an entry point. If it chooses not to pull back and the market continues to move higher, I might target the current all-time highs at the trigger point. Once the market surpasses that level, pulls back and retests it for support, that would be another good entry.
When do you expect the short interest to kind of cool down on NVIDIA after earnings release?
Yeah, it'll probably cool down. It's not really that hot right now. It may be causing a little bit of the near-term volatility, but the short interest really isn't a problem for me with NVIDIA stock right now.
Right, Thomas. Well, thank you so much for breaking down some of the key points in this NVIDIA earnings release. There's going to be plenty of chatter about this in the coming days. And again, expect to see those market moves coming too. For more coverage, check out marketbeat.com and watch some of their other videos on NVIDIA as well. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. And as always, happy investing.